in Pakistan is 42%. And then we have other neighboring countries which are seeing even worse, like Afghanistan, like our own, even in our own provinces. And across the, Asia and Pacific, we see a lot of challenges as well in terms of hunger and poverty. I've been given a written speech which has a lot of figures in it, and I think that I would like to speak from my heart. To me, what hunger looks like. Hunger comes with a lot of helplessness, and it is a manifestation of poverty. I would like to show you some slides before we go into our session of what it feels like to lose your home, to be out there in the flood, a flood that you didn't bring upon yourself. Pakistan does only 1% of the world's emissions, whereby Pakistan has been the most calamity-stricken in terms of flood. And this is the first year. We don't know what's going to happen in the second year. So I would like to share some images, because I think that for us now the way forward is to feel from the heart and speak from the heart, because it's not one country's issue, it's a global issue, and each country is suffering in its own way. So we have to have a heart to be helping each other. Can I have the slides? So these are the slides that we have, and try and put yourself in the place of these people. Helplessness, losing everything, don't know where the meal is. Some of these people, like 30 to 40% of these people, are now, cut off. We can't reach, we can't even send them rations. Schools are gone, health facilities are gone, homes are gone, cattle are gone, crops are gone. And there are 75,000 women in the floods who are pregnant. And one of the severest issues that our adolescent girls were facing was during their menstruation, that what to do. So it's been like, poverty, the flood poverty, the calamity poverty, which we are not even responsible for. Look at this image. This is what she has. So with this, I think that there are a few questions before we go, and I invite our speakers. What should we be looking for? We need to join hands. First of all, we are bound by our boundaries. We are bound by our borders, stringent borders. But what's happening is when these floods happen, when these emissions happen, when the hunger happens, when the, it's not the responsibility of one state. So we, the Asia Pacific especially, has to join hands to come up with some solutions. Because in my mind, it's the age of solutions that we are at. It's not about talking, and it's not about giving figures and saying, percentages and all that. It's about, as I said, speaking from the heart. So identifying essential way forward to ensure access to food, safe water, and sanitation, understanding climate change, and accordingly devising resilient strategies in agriculture to maintain qualitative and quantitative production of food crops. I think it's not quite possible to understand climate change. It's the big countries that are doing the emissions who need to understand that how poor countries are becoming poorer because of their emissions. Pakistan is not responsible for the kind of floods and poverty and hunger that we are going through. And I'm sure a lot of you would feel that way for your countries as well. ensuring policy interventions for efficient use of resources to end hunger, identifying way forward for women, children, and vulnerable segments, minorities of society to help them lead sustainable lives. Helping and being kind and being considerate is very important. For us as parliamentarians, devising ways for meaningful collaboration of public and private sector, and trying to resolve these issues. So with that, I would like to also share that, in one of the TikToks, I saw a little boy, I think it was an Afghan boy, wearing shalwar kameez, sitting there, and somebody, put a roti in front of him, these big naans, that Afghan naans that we have in Pakistan also. And the boy is doing this, and like he's been given a toy. And so the guy who is putting the roti in his face is, sometimes taking it back, sometimes he's also, swinging back and forth. And then the roti is given to him, and he does this with it. And he hides, and he runs, inside, under the charpai. So this is not the way. But on the other hand, one question that I have for my dear delegates and all the youngsters who are sitting here is, our hearts have been closed for each other, for our own people. And we need to open up our hearts. We need to be kinder, more giving, and more generous. Because as legislators, as parliamentarians, that is the only way ahead. Policy makers cannot just rely on figures and like black and white. No, we have to have a lot of empathy. Unless we have empathy, and big countries need to have empathy for developing countries. What do? America, China, India. So we have to have empathy for each other. With this, I initiate the session. And I would like to invite MNA and the leading figure behind one of our most extensive social protection programs, Benazir Income Support Program, Shazia Ata Mari, who's a minister, to initiate and give her presentation, which is virtual. Shazia.
Ladies and men, Assalamu alaikum and greetings to all. A very warm welcome to all the honorable participants of this important regional seminar of IPU for the Asia-Pacific region. I speak to you today from a flood-hit area of the province of Sindh in Pakistan. I would like to use this opportunity to draw your attention towards the hunger and malnutrition in Asia-Pacific region, as well as climate change around the globe in general, and in the South Asian region in particular. Let me talk about the concept and some statistics about the Goal 2 of SDGs, which is meant to eradicate poverty, hunger, and ensuring access to safe and nutritious foods for everyone by 2030. And eradicating all forms of malnutrition by 2025, which doesn't seem to be achieved soon. Basically, hunger is a state of body. It is an uneasy sensation occasioned by the lack of food, while malnutrition occurs when for a longer period of time, our body doesn't receive enough nutrients for the growth of mind and body, and eventually makes body fragile. The worldwide statistics regarding hunger and malnutrition are extremely disturbing. According to the World Food Programme, around 798 million people don't have basic food for eating and thus are suffering from hunger and malnutrition. In simple words, unfortunately, 1 in 7 people are hungry and more than 3.5 million children are dying annually only because their bodies don't get enough food. As per World Food Programme reports, 135 million people are suffering from acute hunger, which is caused by man-made conflicts, economic instabilities, and climate change. If we didn't tackle these events seriously, then by 2030, the hunger-stricken population would cross 840 million of global population. To end hunger and malnutrition is the greatest challenge because more people are dying due to hunger than malaria, tuberculosis, or even AIDS. According to World Technology Network, malnutrition at early age causes physical or mental impairment, whereas lack of essential body nutrients at early age is also casting shadows over the future of countries. In the last 2 years, COVID-19 had further worsened the situation and pushed more people towards the risk of food insecurity. The condition of food security in Asia-Pacific countries is also very concerning, as according to Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, FAO, and UNICEF, around 375 million people are suffering from hunger and malnutrition in this region. Moreover, according to Asia and Pacific Regional Overview of Food Security and Nutrition in 2020, around 1 billion people didn't have access to enough nutritious food. The rising inflation, income inequality, expensive sustainable foods, and increasing poverty have kept healthy, adequate food out of the reach of 1.8 billion people in the region. Due to COVID-19, the Asia and Pacific region also got badly hit. Half of the children in South Asian countries and 1 in 5 in other Pacific states are not growing healthy, such as either they are overweight or stunned. Most stunting is found in countries of this region, and obesity prevalence in the area is also on the rise. We can end extreme poverty and create more inclusive societies by developing human capital. This requires investing in people through nutrition, healthcare, quality education, jobs, and skills. Benazir Income Support Program, as the largest social protection program of the country, focuses on building human capital of most vulnerable segment of the society by investing in their education, health, and nutrition. Through education conditional cash transfer, we help children of vulnerable families to complete their education, focusing more on girls' education through higher incentives to reduce the gender enrollment gap. Let me share with you that over 40% children are stunted in Pakistan, which is indicative of an ongoing child nutrition crisis. Such levels of malnutrition rank Pakistan the second highest burden country in the region. To address this stunting prevention and promote dietary diversity during first 1,000 days window of opportunity, Benazir Income Support Program is implementing Benazir Nashun, a conditional cash transfer to increase uptake of health and nutrition. Specialized nutritious food is being provided along with immunization and awareness to bottom 2 quintiles of population to prevent stunting in future generations. Climate change is playing a major role in rising natural disasters, and people affected by such disasters are at a greater risk of food insecurity and malnutrition. According to Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the increasing temperatures and climate change will affect the food production capacity of Asia-Pacific countries, but most hunger crises would be faced by South Asian countries. Pakistan is paying a huge price for carbon emissions that it has very little to do with. Pakistan contributes less than 1% in carbon emissions, but is paying way more today. I would like to take this opportunity to point out that Pakistan is confronted by many challenges, including the recent unprecedented rainfalls of 2022, resulting in catastrophic floods. These devastating floods have displaced more than 33 million people in Pakistan, and almost 1,347 people have died as a result of this catastrophe. There are countless injured. The country may face hunger crisis due to 4 million hectares of crops washed away and loss of around 800,000 livestock. It is estimated that around 65% of major crops of the country like cotton, dates, onions and rice are washed away, and more than 3 million children are in dire need of humanitarian assistance and are at increased risk of malnutrition and waterborne diseases. I cannot explain in words the scale and magnitude of human misery caused by the devastating floods in Pakistan. We are grateful to the UN Secretary General for his recent visit to Pakistan and his appeal to the world to support Pakistan during these challenging times. In March 2022, heavy floods and rains in Australia have killed 23 people and caused $1 billion loss to the infrastructure. The frequent and extreme climate events are alarming, as in India the drought conditions are likely to decline the wheat production by 8% in 2022. And severe flooding in May and June of 2022 in Bangladesh have given rise to serious food insecurity. It is time for us to work in solidarity in order to combat with climate changes and crises. Our parliaments must continue to engage and strategize on ways to become climate resilient and mitigate the effects of climate change. In the end, I would like to thank you all once again for your worthy participation at this important parliamentary dialogue, and I wish you a comfortable stay in Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Shazia Marie, who couldn't come to this important conference because she is very busy with giving relief to the flood affected in the province of Sindh, which is her area as well. And she's absolutely right that we all need to work in solidarity with each other. And countries, Asia Pacific, should join hands. I think what the big takeaway from this conference would be a joint responsibility, because we have seen through these floods that happened to Pakistan that though Pakistan didn't do anything, and I'm saying it for the third time, but yet it's affected. And the world cannot treat it like, okay, this has happened to Pakistan and we'll try to help them. But the first area of helping is to take responsibility, to take joint responsibility. I think what we have made of the world today, the hunger, the poverty, it's all our responsibility. It's all the policies, the capitalism, the trickle-down economic theory didn't work. So it is to work together and to take joint responsibility. So I would invite the next speaker, which is Ms. Sylvia Kaufman, Scaling Up Nutrition from the SUN program. So Sylvia, and she's also going to participate remotely and virtually. Thank you so much. We can't hear you. You will have to unmute. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, the SUN is a very important program, and it's doing great work in Pakistan as well, and doing some work on malnutrition. And the issue is very extensive, but we would like to hear from Sylvia, what is it that we are doing? So are we able to resolve the issue? IT डिपार्टमेंट वाले हमारे साथी जो हैं, ये हम इशू कैसे रिजॉल्व करेंगे? Sylvia, the issue is from your side. Can you resolve it? Meanwhile, while we are trying to resolve the issue, I would like to invite Mr. Kresid Tontisiran, member of the Bureau of IPU Standing Committee on Sustainable Development. And he's an MP of Thailand. He is also participating virtually. Do we have Mr. Kresid online? Achha. So we wait. Okay, meanwhile, I have an important announcement to make. I'm very into taking photographs of all events, and of course with me in it. So, so pictures and videos that are taken now by our professional photographers will be available on the website. So you can even ask them to take your photographs.
Okay. What should we do?
Hello, is this Mr. Kresid?
Yes, I'm speaking.
Okay, great.
You hear
Great
me?
to have you. We are just going
You
to
hear me?
fix the voice a little bit.
You can hear me as well? Madam
Hello?
Just a sound check. Madam Chair at the National Assembly, can you hear me now?
Is this Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay, Chris, can we take Sylvia? Chris, we
Yes,
would
I
take,
think so. Let
yes.
Sylvia speak first.
You know, we waited for her. So Sylvia, you can speak now. Just let us get your photo first.
Yes. And you can hear me now, right?
Hello? Okay, Sylvia, over to you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope we were able to sort out the audio issues. And it's really my pleasure to join you for this third IPU seminar on the progress of the SDG implementation in Asia and Pacific. And a very, very warm welcome to everyone, Honorable Chair, Madam Chair, the parliamentarians and the organizers. And I'm happy to share my remarks and contribution to hunger and malnutrition, giving a little bit on the background, but I now understand that quite good numbers have been shared already. So I will be focusing on some actions which I propose where parliamentarians can really play a key role. And why are we talking about nutrition when discussing the SDGs? Good nutritional status leads to a higher productivity, and we do all know that. And in turn, it supports the socio-economic development of the country and the growth of a nation as a whole. And so in that regard, investments in nutrition build human capital and boost the shared prosperity and the equity, because it is an investment that benefits the poorest. So it's a pro-poor investment in itself, and it supports the most disadvantaged and marginalized population groups and fosters equity. And just to give you examples which are coming from intensive research, nutrition impacts schooling. Early nutrition programs can increase schooling completion by 1 full year, and that means in educational outcomes. So further, for other research focused on results later in life, results in better income and earnings. Early nutrition programs can raise adults' wages for up to 50% due to stronger physical productivity and mental capacities over the whole lifetime. This is another very strong argument for why we have to invest in nutrition, and it helps to lift up people out of poverty. It has been shown that children who escape stunting are 33% more likely to escape poverty when they are adults. Investments in nutrition is an investment in the economy. Reduction of stunting can increase, and this is context specific, for Asia and Africa. It can increase the GDP by 4 to 11%. This is amazing, and this will change economists' mind if we would all know that investments in nutrition pay off for the government and for the development. Nutrition impairs the successful achievement of the SDG targets, but good nutrition is key to reach the targets successfully and to tackle inequality and inequity. And while nutrition appears as the most dominant and the freestanding element of the SDG number 2, it is closely interrelated to all the SDGs, to all the 17 SDGs, very directly linked to the SDGs 1 to 6, but also 12 and 17. And if we want, so Madam Chair has been talking about it, the empathy, the love, the heart, which we could call as the SDG 18. So the many manifestations of malnutrition does not derive only from the lack of enough and adequate food and safe food, but it's multidimensional causes. It is interlinked closely with health, with people's health. It's interlinked and requires health services. It's interlinked with basic education and sanitation, hygiene, access to financial resources, access to productive resources. And here women's empowerment and the social role of women comes in very, very strongly and plays a vital role in improving nutrition and many more aspects. Today we face tremendous challenges, and you have been talking about it, and you're at the forefront in Pakistan, sadly. Inequalities and justice are on the rise. High levels of unemployment, especially among the youth, we do face, and this is a critical concern. Pandemics on top of that, the combined effects of climate change, migration, displacement, clean water shortages are significant global challenges, but also not to forget the recent political conflict in the Ukraine and in Russia, the world's largest cereal and oilseed producers and suppliers of fertilizers and energy, disrupt global food systems and the food supply chain further, pushing up prices for energy and also food tremendously and other basic needs. So in this regard, trends in hunger and malnutrition are sadly on the rise. This means since 2019, pre-COVID, the number of hungry people increased by 150 million, rising up to 828 million people facing hunger every day. And more than half of those are living in Asia, sadly. 9% of the Asian population are facing hunger. This is far away from the zero hunger goal aimed at by the SDG 2. And the pandemic widened inequalities and gender gaps further, particularly in Asia, where considerably more women are now post-COVID food insecure compared to men. Access to a healthy diet is disrupted. 2.3 billion people lack access to adequate food, and 3.1 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet in 2020. And this is a global increase by 120 million in only 1 year over the COVID year. 1/5 of all the children are suffering stunting, and 45 million are wasted. These numbers are tremendous and require urgent action. Numbers of micronutrient deficiencies, particularly anemia, are increasing further, but furthermore, overweight and obesity are on rise, sadly, and this is particularly in urban areas, and it's particularly tremendous in South Asian urban areas. All this requires action, and how to end hunger and malnutrition, some urgent actions are required. And Madam Chair was talking about the age of solutions. We have all means, we have the research, we have the knowledge, we have the resource, we have the tools, and we have financial resources in this world. So nutrition underpins the sustainable development and must be highlighted but not hidden in the respective public policies. This particularly during the challenging times of the post-COVID and the Ukraine and the Russia conflict, which causes disruption of the food chain and making healthy diets more expensive and less affordable to the poor. We must reshape the policies and subsidies also to promote healthy diets and incentivize the production of nutritious food, not only focusing on staple foods, not only focusing on commercial agriculture, but diversify food production and make healthy foods affordable. Incentivize that, subsidize, and so on. Governments must start rethinking how they can reallocate their existing public budgets to address malnutrition, to reduce the cost of nutritious foods. And I think here is where the parliamentarians can play a very crucial role. It's very important to integrate and prioritize nutrition in the socio-economic development plans and in government long-term 5-year plans and in annual work and budget plans. Extremely important, and this is a missing link at the moment. We don't have policy-based financing, but we have policies and we do our business as usual in public work plans. But we do need to turn the policies into tangible work and budget plans and give adequate attention to nutrition in those plans. This is not business as usual, but this requires a change in the public system. Nutrition actions must be evidence-based and quality services must be promoted at scale, addressing the needs of the most unreached population groups. Nutrition action plans should acknowledge the complexity and look at of Asia and Pacific has been working on sustainable food systems, pathways and action tracks formulated by every country. This provides best guidance and this needs to be turned into action for improving diets and nutrition. We have to learn from implementation and we do need to look at successes and failures, and we must document and analyze what we did and improve our planning. This requires flexibility in the public work plan. And we must measure the changes and demonstrate progress. It's not only the good wish and the ambitions that make action to be effective, but we do need to measure that. And we must demonstrate that to sustain the commitments, to sustain our locations, an extremely important element. And overall, and this is where SUN has been worked quite a lot and has been very successfully in so many countries of the world, and we still have a long way to go. We need to empower governance structures for nutrition, governance structures requiring the multi-sectoral stakeholders and the multiple actors of various sectors to join hands and be empowered, but also be accountable for their commitments and for the implementation. These are the 7 messages I would like to convey, and efforts towards reaching SDG 2 targets are proving inefficient in the face of more challenging and uncertain contexts. Governments need to rethink how they reallocate their existing public budgets to improve nutrition and make healthy diets more affordable with sustainability and leaving no one behind. Thank you very much for listening, and I am also there for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Of course, to the many solutions, nutrition is the most important, and as you said, early years intervention is most important, and mother, child, and the growth of the, a person requires a lot of nutrition, and to include it in the policies and all. So another question that I would have, the first question was on solutions. The second question would be, who will do it? So when we are talking about policymakers, when we are talking about parliamentarians, and we know that political will and that strong political will is so important to carry on the work, how will we create political will? Who will be the leader, or who will be the group who will lead is very important. We have to start finding leaders from within, and we need to start to build capacity of our youth. Whether it's the local system or youth, both men and women, boys and girls. And I'm very pleased that our SDG Secretariat in Pakistan, Parliament of Pakistan, has had so many internees working on this SDGs conference who will be very well versed on these issues by the end of the day. It's very moving, Sylvia, when you say that half of the world population, Asia, suffers from malnutrition. Half of Pakistan's children suffer from malnutrition. And how do we make it right? But I would also like to request you and urge you, when you talk about the issues the world had to face, which is COVID and which is the Russia-Ukraine war, please add the Pakistan's flood into it, because it's a global catastrophe that has hit in terms of Pakistan. So thank you so much, and we look forward to working together with you and our partners and our parliamentarians, and try to figure out who will be the person, who will be the group, which will be the institution that will take what you're doing, the good work that you're doing, to scale. With that, I would like to move on to Mr. Cressida Tontisirin, member of the Bureau of the IPU Standing Committee on Sustainable Development and MP of Thailand. And thank you so much, Cressida, for waiting for such a long time. And so we really look forward to your presentation virtually, and we want to be energized. This is the hour after lunch, and we all want to be totally energized by your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair Lady, for your kind introduction. I am very lucky to speak after Dr. Sylvia. She has already set the stage quite well. I will share with you the success story and best practice in Thailand. We have document in English that we published a few years ago for ACC SCN. And also I have a Thailand food management program in English also. Chair Lady, may I start with expressing my profound empathy for the suffering of Pakistani population with this flooding. And I believe that with global collective effort, with the Pakistani people and government, the problem can be solved. Profounding factor through SDG should be also tackled, not only global level, but national and also local level. Today, I will share with you quickly the lesson learned from Thailand experiences in alleviation of hunger and malnutrition. I have several slides that you can share to participants. And if I have time later on, I can volunteer to share with academia, member of parliament and government officer in Pakistani to share about how to deal with hunger and malnutrition. Briefly, Thailand has a very success story in alleviation of hunger and maternal and child malnutrition. However, we are now facing with the rising trend of overweight and NCD. Next, please. This just shows you that during the last 30 years or so, we are able to reduce hunger from 35% now to be below 7 and 5%. And also we have achieved MDG goal. And I believe we also achieved SDG goal in terms of hunger and malnutrition, except rising trend of overweight and obesity. Next, please. This just show you that because of this trend, we have a universal healthcare coverage, cover antenatal care, take care of pregnant mother, and also reduce low birth weight. And at the same time, we also reduce underweight of under 5, below 10 now. But recent trend show that stunting also reduced below 10, and also underweight also below 10. However, overweight and obesity has been rising to be about 10, 12, and 15% of under 5. Next, please. And the strategy that I think we have to keep in mind, we emphasize on food-based, ensuring food security, food fortification, and also food regulation. I would like to emphasize what Sive mentioned, that we have to emphasize about healthy diet, which is a great variety of diet composed of various food groups. And then in pregnant lactating mother, we may have to provide supplementation with micronutrient and also food. And then supplementation, and also we have to provide food and nutrition education. And then the Ministry of Health and local government can play a role very well in public health measure through universal care, health service, basic services, sanitation, water supply, and deworming. And the most important thing of the success story is community-based program, which is integrated program responsible for the policy from central level. Enable mechanism is monitoring, evaluation, research, development, capacity building. Next, please. And the program, I believe it requires institutional arrangement that can be done through rural development scheme. It can be done through poverty alleviation plan based on the government context. But it has to be multi-stakeholder, not just government. It has to involve private sector, academia, people, civil society. And then we have to set up nutrition goal clearly so that we have action to be followed. It has to be community-based. Provision of basic services throughout those areas. In Thailand, we have mass mobilization, one volunteer per 10 households. They bring all vulnerable groups to participate. And then they also provide communication. Agriculture and food system play a very important role, starting from subsistence economy. And then also prepare supplementary food for pregnant mother, complementary food for infant young children. And later on, we have dairy farm to provide school milk to children. Next. And a community-based program is an integrated program implemented at local level. A national commitment for sound nutrition improvement strategy and goal. Community action, basic service, mass mobilization, mutual effort and action to reach all people to prevent malnutrition. And this diagram is based on Thailand government and my personal experiences. It took me almost 15 years to draw this diagram, starting from basic service from the top. And then from the bottom, we have basic minimum need goal, including hunger and malnutrition alleviation, working with community leader, community organization, government sector, work together with those organizations, community organizations, come up with the plan, management plan, action. And then in order to cover people, we have to have a mass mobilization, one volunteer, that will bring vulnerable group to participate in the service. Then we identify the so-called menu activity. When you are hungry, you have to order menu 1, 2, 3, and then you can move to other menu. But at the same time, if we can do 2, 3 menus together, we can do it. Like antenatal care, growth monitoring and promotion, food production, sanitation, school lunch, school meal. Next, please. The success component, number one, provision of basic service. Second, active community organization leader engagement. And then community volunteer. We call health volunteer 1 per 10 household. And community goal and indicator for situation analysis, for planning and for action, and also for evaluation. And then community action, including remedial action based on those situations. The rest, I can go very quickly. It's a kind of standardized operating procedure. For example, menu activity. We provide for antenatal care services, cover high-risk group, monitoring weight gain. And then we have nutrition and health education, food supplementation based on local snack. That can be whatever snack, can be egg, can be a snack, as I show in there. It's a chakri or pop rice with caramel, with peanut, with sesame, you see? And then multivitamin mineral supplementation. And then also referral system for safe service delivery. With this, we were able to reduce low birth weight. We reduced maternal and child death. With menu on growth, monitoring and promotion. We follow up the growth and development, and then take remedial action, promote breastfeeding, promote complementary feeding, and then we have village type complementary food based on rice, sesame, and mung bean. And then we cooking demonstration, and then also treatment of malnourished. Next, please. I can just mention the name. And then we have menu on school nutrition, school garden, learning by doing. And then we have school lunch and school meal. Next, please. And school meal program starting in 1992, starting from kindergarten, and then gradually cover up to 6th grade in the year 2019. Thai new generation is 5 to 7 centimeters taller than my generation. So it's a very comprehensive program in human life cycle. Next, community food production is also very important. Starting from home gardening, school gardening, land use properly. And then, of course, we grow vegetable, fruit tree, fish, chicken. learning by doing. And also we grow herb and spice, and then grow a food for pregnant mother, complementary food for infant young child feeding. And then of course we emphasize on food preservation. Certain area we have dairy cow production, school, they can bring milk to school. The government create demand, school milk program, next please. And then we have documentation. If you are interested, I can send you the last one, the right one. We have case study for ACC, SCN. Next, please. And currently, we have a food management as a program emphasizing on agriculture and food system for food and nutrition security, for economic opportunity, for social, cultural, and tourism, and for environmental sustainability under the so-called BCG project, bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy. Next, please. And as Sylvia mentioned, when we improve nutrition, mother-child nutrition, and also reduce hunger, we are able to tackle so many SDG. Even we start from SDG 2, but it affects SDG 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 10. You see, of course, 17 is a must. Multi-stakeholder approach, multi-strategic approach, and then multi-level approach. Next, please. And I think the role of the parliament, I think starting from legislation and fiscal budget to support hunger and malnutrition reduction through whatever program you have, poverty alleviation, rural development plan, and at the same time promote the program to realization of SDG, and then oversight of the program and related program, and then people representation, and propose the motion if needed, and then other function like social safety net and support enabling mechanism. Next, please. With that, I think, as Steve mentioned, we learn about success story, we learn about failure story, but we need political commitment, as the chair mentioned, and then we need resources mobilization. Working together, I believe we can solve or improve the problem. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cressid, and it's amazing what Thailand does. It's amazing, and I think I've been to some of your school feeding programs up in the hills. I don't remember, it was 10 years ago. I'm very worried about my memory, that I don't remember. It was a mountainous region. And we went, UNICEF took us to see that, and it was very, very impressive. And it's great to see that, you know, you have sustainable programs that carry on, and you keep on evaluating them, and that the government of Thailand and the private sector is very focused and serious. And also, that is because of the size of the population also. I worry for my country, I worry for other very populous countries because the size keeps on growing, and it becomes a governance nightmare to have 100% coverage or even 50% coverage and to reach out to all the hungry mouths, and especially children. And I must comment that Thailand has done great work on early years and children, and we in Pakistan need to learn a lot. And with that, we would be, the Secretariat colleagues will be in touch with you to take your presentation and put it on our SDGs website, because I'm sure there are other countries who would be very keen to read up on the details. I love the detail of your presentation. Thank you so much. Do you want to say something? Disconnected? Okay.
I really appreciate and would like to share further I volunteer myself. If you organize any meeting and would like me to elaborate more in detail and have time to receive questions and comment that I can interact with. So please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
same thing for Sylvia. Now we can use online meeting
Yes.
without costing.
Is Sylvia with us?
Thank you.
Is Sylvia still with us? Sylvia, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, I'm here, and yes, it's very impressive. I know about the Thailand examples, and we are preparing also a study tour for a Lao team to visit Thailand and to understand the successes. And it's really tremendous what has been achieved. And what is amazing is the great continuity in there. And that all that is really public sector led and public sector carried forward. And only through this very strong commitments, it's able to achieve the successes. You deserve it. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And I think that, Sun may want to consider, if you can move fast, is getting the right nutrition to the calamity struck and to the war struck, to the conflict, and especially children, and pregnant women, and the most vulnerable. Whatever the government decides, the most vulnerable, to me, it's the children and women. So I think that we would have to carve out that area, looking at what the world is coming to. It's not business as usual, so we have to keep on improvising very, very quickly. So now I would like to thank you so much, Sylvia. Now I would like to invite our representative from Nepal, Sharada Devi, who wants to make a comment in Hindi, which is almost like Urdu. We share a lot of script. Sharada Devi, if you can, would you like to stand up so people can see you? And we'll have your mic open. आपका mic open कर देते हैं. आप खड़ी होंगी ताकि लोग आपको देख लें.
सभी को धन्यवाद, प्रस्तुतकर्ताओं को भी धन्यवाद. मैं नेपाल से आई, मैं शारदा देवी भट्ट नेपाल पार्लियामेंट से हूँ, पार्लियामेंट की सदस्य हूँ. हमारे मुल्क को विश्व के सभी मुल्क के लिए कुपोषण व गरीबी ज़्यादा आम है. बाढ़ के वजह से फिलहाल विश्व में हाहाकार है. पाकिस्तान भी अछूता नहीं है. इसमें ज़्यादा असर महिलाओं बाल बच्चे में ज़्यादा पड़ता है. माँ कुपोषण होने से बच्चे कुपोषण होते हैं. दिगो विकास के 17 लक्ष्य में इसमें बाल बच्चे व महिला भी पढ़ते हैं. इसलिए कोई भी देश तब धनी होता है जब महिला व बाल बच्चे धनी होते हैं. राज्य के वो देश धनी होता है जो सभी राज्य के जनता धनी होते हैं. राज्य अभिभावक है. राज्य ने महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाना जरूरी है. धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much. And could we have a little bit of translation from your colleague? आप translate करोगे?
No.
नहीं? Thank you so much for your comment. और हम सबको मिलजुल के करना है और हम सब मिलजुल के करेंगे. और नेपाल ने भी बहुत अच्छे प्रोग्राम करे हैं. मैं एक दफ़ा नेपाल का भी चक्कर लगा था. And Nepal has done very well. And we need to join hands. बहुत शुक्रिया आपके comment का. So a member of parliament from Iran, Dr. Malik Fazli would like to make a, Malik Fazli would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Sir, please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
We are coming to the afternoon section. Everybody is going to be maybe tired. But just about this malnutrition and development, I think the key resource for the change is the manpower. Also, if you go into the manpower, if you wanted to remove malnutrition, and the deaths of the children under 5 years, at first we have to go where? To think about our daughter to go and educate it. If we dream and close our eye and remember the future, we reach a day in undeveloped country, and the countries surrounded us, like some countries like Afghanistan, if one day 85 or 90% of the daughters are able to pass high school level, and 70% pass the bachelor level and doctorate, in that day, you never had undeveloped country. This is the main goal. But we have to try to change the opinion of our people surrounding us, especially in those countries, they don't believe this point. Because without manpower, you cannot change anything. At first, you have to change manpower. Then you can reach to the sustainable and intelligent development. Also, why intelligent? If you go to the background, if we see something like a crisis, like all the climate change, air pollution, dust pollution, water shortage, and dam we have make it, we don't think what is the dam. We are doing what we are doing. What will be happening after that? If we don't think about, then we never reach to the sustainable development. Because all this development we are thinking, we are not thinking about what will happen in future. Some obstacles, they are not visible. And they will change the world and destroy it. And after that, some developed country, they have to use the resources. As a manpower, we are educating them and sending to that countries. And our resources, they are going and change it, all the things, and they are telling we are going to give the aid to you. No, this is not aid. If we go and think wisely, this is compensation, at least 1% of compensation. This meeting, the 8 goals, which is cooperation and collaboration, all of the countries to remove undevelopment from the world. If some part of the world, one small country is suffering, the world will never reach to peace and development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother from Iran. And you're absolutely right that manpower or human resource is of utmost importance. And in our countries, each government, each successive government has their own priorities, and sometimes it's brick and mortar, sometimes it's something else. And so from a little child born to whatever the needs are, and especially education and skill development, it's very important. Thank you, sir, for your very important comments. I would now like to invite our last speaker and request her to be brief. Dr. Sabah from UNICEF Pakistan, and she's speaking on behalf of Abdullah Fadil, who's the representative of UNICEF Pakistan. Dr. Sabah?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, dear delegates, respected audience, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Lot has already been discussed about the numbers and gravity of the situation. Just wanted to reiterate that adequate nutrition is not just about hunger. It's about individuals' health. It's about child survival. It's about growth. It's about development. It's not about the development of a child, even at a family, household, community, and at most at the country level. So in nutshell, if we are talking about nutrition and hunger, that means we are talking about country's developmental indicator, which is human development. So any investment in nutrition will ultimately help any country, including Pakistan, to work around human development. Just to share with my worthy delegates from different countries, we already know that situation of malnutrition in this country is very grave. Half of our children, 40%, are already stunted. That means the cognitive development, production of the nation is on compromise. We are struggling with another undernutrition situation, which is wasting way above the emergency nutrition cutoff point, which is 15%. We are standing on 18%. That means we are already in nutrition emergency for our children. But now, from where we should start? We need to see that nutrition is an intergenerational cycle. We need to see our adolescent girls, where they are standing, what are their nutritional status. Half of our girls are anemic. So Pakistan is one of the countries who actually adopted the SDG and committed to achieve 40% of reduction in stunting and 5% in wasting, which is unfortunately, progress seems slow. What is the solution? We need to see the intergenerational cycle. We need to see life cycle approach and how we can move ahead with that. There are definitely good examples, like my earlier worthy speaker from Thailand actually elaborated on the approach, which I was just about to share, madam. Nutrition is a multi-sectoral subject and hence required multi-system approach to nutrition-specific interventions. When we say multi-system, that means within health system, we need to see how nutrition interventions can be part of health system for our mothers, for our young girls, and for our children. And then we talk about food system, how we actually effectively make our food regulation more sensitive to our population, what regulation we should adopt, what nationwide strategy we need to do. For example, fortification, large-scale fortification, because nutrition is not just a problem of lower poor quintile, it's almost fourth out of 5 quintile. We are facing any form of malnutrition, whether talk about obesity or undernutrition. Madam Chair, I just would like to highlight on the multi-system approach. We have talked about health system, we have seen good example of systems, food system, social protection. Madam Shazia has already elaborated how Pakistan is trying to make conditional cash transfer sensitive to nutrition. WASH is an integral part. So having said that, ma'am, I also would like to highlight that as a nation, probably we need to look into the social behavior change towards our dietary habit. We are facing challenges, surely, because of global crisis, because of Ukrainian war, and above and all, off and on our emergencies. Recently, we are facing huge flood emergency that for surely deprive and pull us back towards bad indicator on nutrition. But how we can solve it? Climate resilient nutrition response may be the ultimate solution. Madam Chair, maybe last words around regulation, because we have parliamentarians where we have good legislation available. For instance, Breast Milk Substitute Code Act, which is in accordance to World Health Assembly. That actually one way to make food secure to our babies through improving breastfeeding. Then we have fortification legislations, maybe enactment for large-scale fortification in order, by the time we are dealing with supplementation to our pregnant women and our girls, we are ready to take care of malnutrition, micronutrient for our large-scale population. Madam, these are some brief points because I was asked for the brief. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Sabha, for your very important points. And here I would really like to, my dear participants, my dear colleagues, parliamentarians, fellow parliamentarians, I would like to mention that UNICEF has been here in Pakistan for how many years now? Long, yeah, so Pakistan is now 75 years old, and I would say mashallah. So UNICEF has been a partner, a friend for children of Pakistan. And here parliamentarians, a very important thing that I would like to share with you is that when the parliament was celebrating its Diamond Jubilee for 75 years, for the first time in the history of the Parliament of Pakistan, we held a session on children in this parliamentary hall. And the children gave such amazing speeches and their point of view. And the Parliament of Pakistan is also considering to make a child rights caucus within the parliament to ensure that children are safeguarded in times of calamities. And as you said, the laws that they are there are, are followed in letter and spirit. I would like to conclude the session now, and there would be a formal concluding of the session by Rumina, who is the coordinator of the SDGs task force. So we are waiting for Madam Rumina to come, who's my fellow MNA. And thank you so much. My comments on this session are that poverty and hunger divide us, poverty and hunger unite us. Especially the countries of Asia Pacific. Some of us have done very well, and most of us are struggling, and from those who are struggling, we are pushed behind by natural disasters and calamities and man-made calamities, and something that we are not responsible for. So during the conference, at the end of the conference, what I would really like for you to take away is empathy for each other, working together, kindness, and the will to change, and to change it together, because the boundaries that we have, the borders that we have, don't mean anything in the face of calamities, in the face of earthquakes, in the face of floods, in the face of droughts. It doesn't happen to one country, it happens to regions. So we need to lift each other up. And malnutrition and the good work that was shared by our panelists and the countries, I know some of the countries who are here have done wonders. And I would like to thank my colleagues from Nepal and from Iran to making very important comments. And we hope to work together and to find solutions. It's not like we come and sit together and we talk to each other and then we leave and then we face our each reality, because when one suffers, the other suffers also, because it's a global reality that we have to face. It's a regional reality that we have to face. So we go away from this conference with a charged and renewed resolve to making it work. Thank you very much. So we are going in for the tea break now, and that's in the lobby on my right side and on your left side. Thank you so much for being patient after the very heavy lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Chair. Bye.
Recording stopped.